title of this session is The Fall of Man. It's Genesis 3, along with passages from Romans 8, 2 Peter 3. And we titled this The Law of the Fall, because the first law of science, the conservation of all matter and energy, ended on the sixth day. And from that day on, we have no new atoms, no new matter, no new energy. It's the same. And the first law of science is the conservation of matter and energy, and it began on the sixth day, and it's carried on. In this state, it could have remained forever. The stars would never have burned out, men would never have died, we would have gone on forever. However, that wasn't to be. So with this one, we're going into, it's a review of Genesis 1 and 2 as the basis of the first law of modern science. Matter and energy originated out of nothing during the creation events of Genesis 1. The first law of science, conservation of matter and energy, began on the sixth day. Not 1 gram of matter or energy or 1 gram of matter or 1 joule of energy has not been created or destroyed since the sixth day, except for miracles, like in the life of Christ. He violated this law. The first law is the basis of most of our laws of science. In other words, all of our ideal and conservation laws, which are most of our laws of science, come out of this law, can be derived from that. The ideal gas laws, the gravitational laws, the electromagnetic laws, optical laws. All of these laws are what we call ideal laws. Other things. The order of matter and energy in the universe originated during the creation events recorded in 1 and 2. In other words, he took matter and energy and fashioned it over 6 days into what we have today. It's not an evolutionary old universe scenario. God maintained the perfect universe in perpetual motion state without decay and corruption during Genesis 1 and 2. Earth's plants and animals had a perfect environment after the creation, with probably 100 times more species than today, living in a uniform, mild temperature over the whole earth during Genesis 1 and 2. The reason I say that there was probably 100 times more, that we know that from the geological record. The number of species are 100 times more, or even the evolutionary biologists agree that we've lost about 99% of our species. We're down to 1%. The celestial bodies were visible immediately after the creation because the speed of light is nearly infinite in deep space. This comes from Maxwell's derivation that makes life as a function of the strength of electromagnetic fields, and those all come from matter that's in celestial bodies. So that as you approach these bodies, the speed of light will slow down, close to, for instance, the speed of light that Einstein enshrined as being uniform all over the universe. However, in deep space, the speed of light will approach nearly infinite speeds as your electromagnetic medium in deep space coming from the charges in matter becomes very weak. It approaches zero, and the speed of light will approach infinity. And as a consequence, Adam and Eve on the first day could see all the 6,000 stars we can see today out there. And we today can see deep into the universe. With our most powerful telescopes, we can look into the very depths of space. We see no end to it, in fact, in our deep field shots from Hubble. Characteristics of the creation in Genesis 1 and 2. There's a creation order. First day is light. Second day, there's a division between the waters above and the waters below by a firmament in between. Third day, the waters below were divided into dry land and seas, with the plant kingdom placed on the land. Fourth day was the creation of the sun, moon, and stars to fill up the light realm. You have the sea animals and the birds to fill up the sea and fly across the firmament that was created on the second day. The sixth day, you have the land animals and man. They're to occupy the third day, where the land was created with the plant kingdom. Perfect creation by God, his declaration is that it's good and very good. In other words, we're not going from chaos to order. We're beginning with perfect order at the beginning. The waters above, they formed when the division with the firmament You have the waters below, which were divided in dry lands and seas. You have the firmament, and then you have the waters above. That would create a water canopy, probably vapor, creating ideal worldwide climates, which we saw in all of our geological layers, all the index fossils of every layer except the very last one, the Pleistocene, the Ice Age. All of them show that the plants and animals had a uniform temperature and it was very mild, whether it was in Antarctica or the equator or the Arctic regions. Those fossils are all of the same temperature climate. Distant celestial bodies would be visible in a young universe because of the nearly infinite speed of light. We could see today, in a very short amount of time after the creation, if this light is, as Maxwell said, up to high, as his derivation was, has a high speed, then we can see what they would say is 20 billion light years away. We would see those in probably a matter of a very short number of years. Lastly, the plants and animals were according to their kind. This creates a genetic wall of separation, protection between the species. And what that does is that protects all of the species, because if they could mix, they'll pick up characteristics very shortly that they will not be able to survive in their climate. Each species has very specific characteristics genetically wired into them to make them survive. And if those barriers, if they could cross over, you'd have just a continuum of species and everything would die because it wouldn't be adapted to its environment. It also prevents the theory of evolution taking place, because you can't jump from form a new species out there. You'd have to have male, female of the same kind. They have to be at the same time on the same place on the earth, and they cannot breed back. And it eliminates evolution by creating things according to their kinds, according to their species. A few more. The Garden of Eden was a perfect life for man with the tree of life, but it was lost in this Genesis 3. There was no rain on the early earth. It was a mist watered the earth. There was no rainfall before the flood, for instance. Man was given dominion over the natural realm. Man names the animals and has dominion over them. There was not at this time also, as we're going to get to, the claw and tooth, the environment in which animals eat each other and kill each other to survive. They don't have to. Marriage of one man and one woman was created by God. He didn't create two men for fellowship, and he didn't create two women, or he created a man and a woman in his image so that they can have that perfect harmony that exists in the Godhead. Food was vegetarian before the flood. The carnivores came after the flood. There was no, all carnivores, by the way, are omnivores. They can live on vegetation. And so that was the way it was before the flood and before the fall from the original creation. There's no fear of man and animals before the flood. That all changed after the flood later. Let's go through some of the passages. The Lord God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden. This is in Genesis 2:15. But there's a divine warning. Genesis 2:17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. There's only one prohibition, one act of obedience. Don't eat of this tree. You can eat of any other tree. You can do anything you want to do here. You can be a gardener. You can enjoy life. And they had a perfect relationship with God because they could talk with him. They could walk and talk with him. This is going to be the last time that that's ever happened until in the future. You shall surely die, the warning was. The temptation of the woman, this is in Genesis 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God said, you shall not eat of it, nor shall you touch it, lest you shall die. He didn't say you couldn't touch it, but that was probably a good reason not to get close to the thing. But he says, you shall surely die. That's what the woman tells the serpent.